Learning is a community-based activity. When, as a community, we learn together, that's the most powerful thing that we can do.
I'm really excited to be here to chat with the current president of Gallaudet University, Bobbi Cordano. I remember as a little girl when the first deaf president of Gallaudet, I. King Jordan, was appointed. I was thrilled. Now, years later, we have Bobbi as the first deaf female president, which has me even more elated. And to see what she is doing with the Gallaudet community has been awe-inspiring. Now I have some personal questions to ask her about her journey. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Yes.
It's fantastic to see you.
So thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
I'm thrilled to do so. I love interacting with fresh faces out in the community.
You know, I remember when we were here with the DWU board, we went to your home for, I think it was tea. I believe we were not the first, but one of the first guests you had at your house.
You were actually the first group that I hosted formally at my house after I became president.
Oh, what a big honor. It's been almost 2 years. So what's your journey been like?
Well, it's already been 3 years. We're going to start my 4th year, January 1st.
Already? Wow.
I know. 2016, 17, and 18 are already under my belt.
Wow, yes.
Before I even knew
What was
it.
that favorite saying of yours? The day goes by too fast for you? Well, I think time just goes by too fast for me.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I see those students at Grad Fest, and they're getting ready to graduate. They were students here when I started in January. I started halfway through their year. And we were talking about how quickly the time has gone by, how much they've grown, and how they're ready for the world out there. I can see the light in their eyes, and oh, what a difference that makes.
So I wanted to ask about your experience. Now, I remember as a little girl just being in awe with the first deaf president's appointment. But now as a female, to see a deaf female president, of course, I'm overjoyed. I can't help but wonder if you feel like you've had to work twice as hard to prove yourself to the community and decision makers because, you know, you are female. What's your experience been like?
You know, for all of us deaf women who are already working in careers that are not just within the deaf community, that are interacting within a public sphere, we all know that we have to work twice as hard as anyone else. We have to think ahead. We have to be more prepared. We have to anticipate what's going to happen, which means we have to think twice as fast as anyone else while we're trying to understand what's actually being said. So there are many facets to the oppression that we experience. Sometimes it's double or triple the oppression that you might find elsewhere. What I do think is different, though, is how we are taught and supported in developing our own coping mechanisms. We have to consider how to mitigate that stress in a positive way. I know that when I was a little girl, my family experienced some discrimination and I became angry. But when people get angry, sometimes that has a negative expression through drug habits, and you start going off track. However, you can also use it in a positive manner to become focused. I became incredibly focused. And I realized that my parents, my family, and my community kept encouraging me to stay focused. When I became frustrated with the world, I channeled it in a positive manner. That became my drive to do well, and I was driven. That's why I realized that the support of the community is so important. I've always known that I was loved by my family, my friends, and my community. So their unswerving support has allowed me to channel that into focus instead.
I like how you frame it. You know, as women, we are often stereotyped as being too sensitive or emotional. However, I think if we are truly, quote unquote, too emotional, I think that better enables us to connect and empathize. And as you said, remain focused and stay engaged. That is a trait that is unique to us. So do you think that's one thing that makes you stand out as a leader?
Well, that could be. But I think other people might have an easier time answering that question than I would. It's hard for me to talk about myself that way. But I will share with you one of my favorite memories of talking with my mom about her life experiences. I said, Mom, how did you and other deaf people succeed back in the days before the ADA or Section 504? You didn't have any of the protections that we have today. She said the key to it was if something isn't going well, change it, fix it, address it, talk with the other people involved to figure out how you can fix it together. But that requires a positive attitude. If you come in guns blazing, it's going to be hard to work with other people. But if you say this is unsatisfactory, then you can engage other people to work with you. And that lesson from my mother, I think that was something to do with her generation. That's something that I want to incorporate. I need that attitude because we have a lot of pain in our community, and I know that. And that happens for a number of reasons, including our identities, stress, oppression, and pain points. But that lesson for me was, what do we do with that pain? If we choose to be negative in an unproductive route, that means that people cannot join with us in the change that we want to see. We have to recognize that feeling and this moment of pain. It doesn't mean to dismiss it or ignore it. We have to take it and convert the energy to change the system. That's what we've been trying to do here at Gallaudet. That's what the community is learning to do. We've taken that lesson from our pain points and made the change to become more successful for all of us.
Your mom seems like a special person.
Oh, yeah.
She was someone you looked up to, a role model growing up.
Always. From the day I was born. Some people don't realize she actually became a chief medical technician right after I was born.
Oh, wow. So she was a working mother.
Oh, yeah, she was a working mother.
Wow. The advice she provided, was that the best advice you have received, or has there been more received by other females?
Well, I have two lessons, really. It was the model I got from both of my parents. It was from both of them, but my mother showed in her work that if at first you don't succeed, never give up. Try again. It doesn't matter how frustrated you are or if things have not gone your way. You have to go forward. Every time you try again, you learn something new that you can apply to the next attempt until you're able to succeed in some manner. And the second thing that my parents, second of three things that my parents taught me and that the deaf community of Devlin, Wisconsin taught me, is the power of community to enact change. Working alone is lonely, it's hard, and it's frustrating. But when we band together as a community, the power
that connection,
of us as a group, anything is possible. That community support is something that I have still seen. And I will never forget it. The community is vital. That's why I often talk about the community as a learning activity, by which I mean learning is a community-based activity. When, as a community, we learn together, that's the most powerful thing that we can do. And it's even more important within the deaf community because we don't have the same access to learning that other people have. So if I got into law school, but you weren't there with me, I have to share my knowledge
sharing
with you.
Information.
Absolutely. You majored in communication with experience in media, so please teach me.
Yeah.
We have to work together because learning is a community act, and it's always been that way in our community. That's part of the value that is important with helping us succeed as a community. There was a woman I called Aunt Penny, and I just found out recently that she was maybe one of the first deaf teachers at Gallaudet. She taught Latin and English in 1924 and 1925. I just found out the years recently, a few months back. But I knew her, and I knew that she had taught in Gallaudet in the past. But she was the first deaf female principal for the Missouri School for the Deaf. But by the time I met her, she had already retired from teaching at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf. You know, she was a close family friend, so it was my duty to go check on her. We called her Aunt Penny, and I wanted to go see how she was doing, but every time I got to her house, she'd have a riddle ready for me.
Oh,
I always knew it was coming. I had to solve a riddle for her.
practice your thinking skills to be ready.
Absolutely. And then she would ask how I was doing, but she taught me the 3 P's. Patience,
Patience.
perseverance,
Perseverance.
and power.
Power. Yes.
And it wasn't just about power as in the power you have as a president. It's the power to act. It's that strength and that feeling of confidence. Those are 3 words that I've lived by.
Your P's.
My
the
3
principle
Ps.
of P's.
Yeah, right. From Aunt Penny, no
Oh,
less.
right. And her name begins with a P, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see you're trying to cultivate that sense of community here at Gallaudet. The Gallaudet community really embraces you. So, you've mentioned different identities. You know, another part of your identity is being a part of the LGBTQ community. Last year, when you and your wife released a holiday video, me and the others, that part of the community, were touched by that. Like, wow.
Aw.
It was bold, showing who you are without hiding that. And I'm curious, have you ever encountered, for a lack of better words, any kind of judgment from the community or...
You know, I remember when I was first trying to decide about coming out to the community and my family, I was more afraid of what coming out was going to do to the other deaf people that I loved, like how people would perceive my parents if they knew that I was a lesbian. I was more worried about them than myself. But the interesting thing was, once I came out, I experienced so much love from everyone. And I realized that everyone really just wanted to see me succeed. They wanted to see me happy. So for my spouse and I to do that video, we were acting in front of the community and being clear that we loved each other. And in that way, I take the same approach that my mom took. I said, Mom, is everything okay? She said, you want to know what I tell people? If they're not okay with it, it's not my problem. My mom realized that it's not our issue. But I still have to have empathy for people who are struggling with that for any number of reasons. I can respect that process. But there's enough love in the world for all of us.
Right.
Yeah. And my spouse and I wanted to share and celebrate this season with the community.
It's beautiful.
We really enjoyed it.
What is the one thing you wish that the community would know about you? Like something we don't know about you?
Good question. What do you think people would like to know about me? I don't know.
What is your favorite nighttime snack before bed?
Now, during the holidays? Organic eggnog.
Ooh.
I look forward to this time of
Wow.
the year for my eggnog before bed. I love that.
I know you're a busy woman and you got a lot going on. So I wonder, how do you unwind at night? For me, I unwind by watching Bubblegum for the Brain TV shows on Netflix. That's the way I unwind, but I'm wondering what you do.
I have a few things that I like to do before bed, but I love puzzling. Right now, I'm on my second 5,000-piece puzzle in the house, which is huge. Sometimes I'll work on it for a while, just a little bit every day where I'm getting a piece in. Sometimes I start to get frustrated where I can't find the piece, and before I know it, it jumps right out at me, and I'm able to put it into the puzzle, which is great. I do read a lot, and I do binge watch TV on occasion. When I just need to disconnect. When I'm under the most stress, that's when I'll start binge watching.
Oh, I know. It's just mindless.
I think many
For
deaf
sure.
people, as visual people, we're
exactly.
looking for something that's going to be different. Reading, on the other hand, it slows you down, and if you start thinking too much, it's nice to have a way to
Right.
just disconnect. Just let it go.
Right. Have you read Becoming Michelle
I
Obama?
did see her speech. Absolutely. And I do have a copy of the book, but I haven't finished reading it
Maybe
yet.
during the holidays?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be finishing it this month. Absolutely. I'm going to be off for 2 weeks, and I'm going to be reading it.
Likewise. I feel like I'm already leaving with those thoughts about what you said about the community, about being focused and about being strong. If you have one secret, your best piece of advice to those other young girls or people who essentially look up to you, those who want to have a successful future, what would your secret be?
Wow. That's a great question. You know, I'm thinking about little girls who are growing up. There are 2 things that I want to say to them. You are perfect. You are already perfect. I don't want them imagining that they are not good enough. It's important to know that they're already perfect, because as a deaf person, it's the most important thing that we can tell our children. There's the medical view saying there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with us. It's a matter of perception. They perceive that something is wrong with us. So that's the first thing. You're perfect. You're already perfect. And the second thing, we recognize that you feel hurt. So make sure that you follow that pain into a positive focus to create something good. Don't choose the easier path to just become angry and disengage and give up and get lost. We need all of our children to be successful so that they can contribute to the world. And the third thing is, when you're in pain, find someone who loves you.
Love.
Find someone who loves you.
Healing.
It can be a neighbor, a stranger, whatever it may be. But when you feel love in that moment, you can overcome anything. That's always been my experience. And that's why I'm here. Because I've been loved.
Wow, I'm touched. You know, I still have this in my head about what you said to us, DWU board, when we got together. You said, be curious. That stayed with me. So that feels like we've made full circle here. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be curious with you today with all of these questions.
Oh, and I'm so happy that you brought that up about curiosity. Because when you feel loved in that moment, we can be open to curiosity.
Right, exactly.
And curiosity is what changes the world. Absolutely. Our ability to move forward comes from curiosity. We need to have that as a foundation. And once we're curious, anything can happen.
So true. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I remember
I'll keep that in mind about one of your perks of wisdom.
I saw it on your website.
DW, shared it.
Still there?
Still.
Aw, I remember
Our
that.
favorite deaf woman quote.
Oh, great.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.